Welcome to Anvil Airsoft TV in association with TaiwanGun.com. In this episode, we're going to be looking at and range testing the CM.009E from Cyma. This is a replica of the XM177E1 as used by US Special Forces in the Vietnam War. Keep watching to find out more about it, how it performs, and just how far it can shoot. TaiwanGun.com have sent me this Cyma CM.009E to review for their channel. So let's take a look at what you get in the box. Of course, you get the replica itself. You get a high capacity magazine. This one takes around 320 BBs and is wound via this dial on the bottom. A cleaning rod, a front sight adjustment tool, a 9.6 volt 1200 milliamp NIM battery, a charger, a mini Tamiya and Dean's adapter for the battery supplied and in case you don't have any other batteries wired to Dean's, a small manual and a TaiwanGun test certificate. An Allen key. The replica was also downgraded at my request to comply with UK Airsoft laws. The replica is made mostly from aluminium die castings, aluminium CNC, polymer injection mouldings, but also includes some steel parts. Alloy and aluminium parts include the front sight block, the sling swivel, the outer barrel, the slip ring, the iron sights, the upper and lower receivers, the ejection port cover, the forward assist, the magazine release, the fire selector, the trigger, stock tube and the charging handle. The steel parts include the flash hider, gas tube under the handguards, the handguard cap, the mock bolt carrier, the magazine shell, the receiver end plate and the castle nut. The polymer parts include the stock, pistol grip and the handguards. Internally we have a true quick change spring system, a bearing spring guide, an internal MOSFET, it's got a steel gear set, steel bushings and a high torque neodymium motor. This way we have a metal hop-up chamber and a precision 6.03mm brass barrel. There are several more retro ARs in the CM.009 range. Take a look at TaiwanGun.com to see if there is a model that suits your needs. The XM177E1 was born from a requirement to replace the US Army's inventory of World War II submachine guns, and also is a handy lighter carbine for troops that didn't require a full-size rifle for frontline combat. The XM designation means that it was an experiment and was never formally adopted. Indeed, the US Army wouldn't actually choose a new carbine until the mid-1990s with the M4, nearly 30 years later. This was the first time the now very familiar buffer tube and sliding stock have been seen. This replaced some much more complicated previous compact designs. So let's have a look at the features of the CM.009E and we'll go tip to butt as usual. Starting with the flash hider, we find a replica of the steel sound moderator. This served a couple of purposes. One was to tame the large flash produced by the very short barrel. The other was at the request of units such as MACV SOG to make the AR sound a bit more like an AK when on missions behind the lines. This airsoft version is largely cosmetic, and to remove it we undo this grub screw here and then unscrew the flash hider in a clockwise direction. Underneath we'll find a conventional 14mm counterclockwise thread so you can install tracer units and suppressors and potentially flash hiders of your choice. Then we have the fixed front sight block. The front sight post itself is adjustable for elevation. To raise the point of impact, use your front sight adjustment tool. To press the plunger, and rotate the post clockwise. To lower the point of impact, same thing again, and rotate the post counterclockwise. Handguards are polymer and in two pieces. They are identical, so it doesn't matter whether you put them back on the top or the bottom. The ones supplied with this replica are oversized compared to the real ones in order to make it easier to fit a large airsoft battery underneath them. To remove the handguards, we pull back on this slip ring here and then just ease them out. Underneath, you'll find the Dean's type battery connector. To replace the handguard, put the nose of the handguard under the cap, pull back the slip ring and ease it back into position. Under the top handguard, you'll also find a mock steel gas tube, just like the real one, and is a really nice addition. The slip ring is correct to the real firearm and is of the flat type rather than the tapered delta ring used in later models. Now we reach the key part of this replica, which is the upper and lower receivers. These feature a fixed carry handle or sight bridge, and also, most notably, a partially fenced lower. This is an earlier version of the AR platform that you will normally see on an airsoft replica. The original slab side ARs had no fencing at all, but this piece here was added to allow the front pivot pin to be retained during cleaning and to make it easier to close the ejection port cover. Later on, additional fencing was also added here around the magazine release to stop accidental activation. This came about after reports of troops losing their magazines whilst on patrol in the field. The rear sight is two position with a ghost ring for close engagements. It's adjustable for windage via this dial here. To adjust your point of impact to the left, rotate the dial counterclockwise. To move your point of impact to the right, rotate the dial clockwise. Receivers are of the period correct cold grey colour rather than the black you'll see on more modern receivers. The front of the lower has the correct 90-degree cut at the front. The rear section, however, uses this reinforced later profile, which helps with strength. The controls will be familiar to anyone who's used an AR style replica before. The mag release is used from the right hand side with the trigger finger. The fire selector falls under the thumb if you're right-handed, and there's three positions: safe, semi and fully automatic. There's a unique serial number on the lower receiver and the rest is blank, so you could have trademarks added if that matters to you. The supplied magazine is a high cap with a capacity of 320 BBs. You add BBs by sliding back this latch and then pouring them in. Once that's done, you can wind the dial on the bottom. Once you get a clunk rather than a click, you know it's fully wound. Pulling back on the charging handle reveals your hop-up unit. To add hop, you turn the dial clockwise, and to remove hop, you turn it counterclockwise. Once you've set the hop to your satisfaction, you can use the bolt release, which is on the left-hand side, to release the mock bolt cover. The pistol grip, this is the early type without the A2 finger groove, and again is period correct. The stock mounts onto the stock tube with two positions, all the way in and all the way out. This is correct for the real steel firearm. The stock itself is a nice replica in polymer of the original, which was actually made from aluminium. CM.009 features a quick change spring. To get to it, you need to remove the stock first by pulling down on the latch and sliding it off. You then need to remove the stock tube end cap by taking out this small crosshead screw. To remove the stock tube itself, you need to take out the crosshead bolt, which is inside. This then reveals the back of the quick change spring guide. Unscrew this with the supplied Allen key, and then you can pull the mainspring out the back of the receiver. There's no need to get into the gearbox. So now we've talked all about the features of the Cyma CM.009E. Let's take it to the range and see how it performs. Welcome back to Thurlaston Air Gun and Archery Centre on this very cold 0 centigrade day. We're going to range test the Cyma CM.009E, aka the XM177E1, and to do that we're going to use these electronic attack sense targets that flash when they're hit by a BB. That way you can see and I can see when I've hit the target. Today we're going to have them out at 30, 40, 45, 50 and 55 metres. Let's get going.
Okay, so we're on the range, we've got the targets out. Before we get going, I just want to have a little chat about the temperature. So we expect the performance of the replica to not be as good as it would be on a bright, sunny, warm day. Going to be a bit restricted because of the cold. One, the air pressure is quite high, so the BBs don't want to fly as far, and two, it's cold, so the hot rubber isn't going to perform as well as it normally does and grip the BB. But we'll carry on and see how far we get. So the first thing we're going to do is set the hop for 0.25 gram BLS BBs, and then we'll chrono. 278, 278, 278, 278, 279, 280, 279, 279, 279, 282, 281, 278. Okay, so chrono test done. Let's go for the effective range test for 0.25 gram BBs. So the effective range test is 5 out of 10 shots onto a torso-sized target at the respective distance. Just so happens that the attack sense targets are around about torso-sized or armour plate size. Perfect. Seems fine at 30 metres, we'll move on to 40. Doing pretty well at 40 metres, we'll go for 45. Okay, I've got a few hits at 45 metres, but I can't hit it consistently. So 40 metres is the effective range for 0.25 gram BB. Right, so we're going to do a max range test on full auto with 0.25 gram BB. Okay, so the maximum range with the 0.25 gram B is about 49, 50 metres. Not bad for a 0.25 gram BB in these weather conditions. 0.28 gram BBs, so we're going to set the hop and then chrono. 244, 244, 244, 244, 246, 246, 248, 244. So we've lost about 40 FPS in power, hopping a 0.28 as opposed to the 0.25. So we'll see how that affects the flight of the BB as we go down the range. Okay, now we'll go for effective range test with 0.28 gram BB. Right, so no problems at 30 metres with the 0.28 gram BBs. Right, 45 metres. Okay, effective at 45, we'll go for 50. Okay, so I can get the odd hit at 50 metres, but I can't land them consistently. So the effective range with a 0.28 gram BB is 45 metres. Right, so max range test with 0.28 gram BB. So max range is about 52, 53 metres with a 0.28 gram BB. I had one hit the stand on the 55 metre target, but I had the sights up a bit for that one, just to have a little look. So 52, 53 metres maximum range. Okay, first thing we're going to do is show you the quick change system. So we're going to take the stock off. Stock off, pull down on the latch, take off the back. We next need to take this end cap off. Look under the stock. I see a small crosshead. You can also see the two positions for the collapsible stock. So undo this small crosshead, take that out. The next thing to do, there's a crosshead bolt about here. I'm just going to remove that. If you remember our Allen key we got with the set, this goes into the back of the quick change spring system, pushed by the mainspring. So make sure you got some pressure on while you're undoing it. Make sure you don't fire this spring guide right across the room. There you go. And that's your mainspring. I'll take this receiver end plate off. Front wide replica. Battery is in the handguard. Take the handguards off, and you can see in order to separate the upper and lower receiver, I'm going to need to use these connectors here. Disconnect them. Separate the upper and lower receiver. Push out this front pivot pin, take down pin. This is slightly more difficult to take apart than a rear wide AR, as wires pass down the side of the gearbox here, then need to pass through this slot, like so. So this is the hop unit and barrel. Barrel's got a nice crown, seems quite nicely made. There you go, very conventional metal hop unit. And with that, we're done with the upper receiver. Back to our lower. As always, it's worth finding a bit or a screwdriver that fits really well. It's quite a bit of resistance. So, decent motor. Okay, now we go back down inside the pistol grip. They're quite snug, so could have easily stripped them if we'd used a screwdriver with the wrong bit. Seems to work really well. Okay, I'll just carefully take that off. So you've got two things here, which is quite cool. You've got a little slot so you can get a little tool in and trip your anti-reversal latch if your gearbox locks, which is unlikely on this model because of the MOSFET. And you've also got a little slot here to get the wires into as the motor comes right through here. Mock bolt release out, do that by just pushing through the retaining pin with a small tool. Then we take the bolt release out. Back of the gearbox here you have this little black shim which helps lock the gearbox into the receiver. To get that out, put it forward and you can just lift it out of the way. So there's a little Torx head driver to get that out. So once you've got everything, all the bolts out, get the gearbox out, pull it and tilt, and it should just come out like that. The thing I do like is on the real AR, these are pins that go all the way through to hold the trigger components. And instead of just moulding them as little bumps, actually taking the time to add in extra pieces out of a different material to make them look more like pins that go all the way through, which is really cool. Okay, gearbox. Here we go. So there's the gearbox out of the gun. Cyma. Okay, so we've got steel bushings. Gearbox is marked Cyma. We've got some reinforcement around the front here. And we've already got these corners that are radiused already. So the first thing to do, we're going to take this off. So let's get into the gearbox. So here's the gearbox. Let's take a look. So here's your piston head, plastic piston head. The last release tooth is steel release tooth, and this first pickup tooth has been cut down slightly compared to the one next to it to allow for better engagement. Pressure on the nozzle on it, okay. Compression could be a bit better, but it's okay. The cylinder head itself is polymer with an O-ring, quite liberally lubed with a light silicone oil. Three types of lube. We've got grease in the bushings, we've got the blue lube on the gears, and we've got a light silicone on the air compression parts. So that's your bevel gear.
So metal injection moulding, very common sort of brown look that MIM parts have with the heat treat. Sector gear, again very much a MIM part. As I said, about 6,000 BBs through it. As you can see, there's very little, if any, signs of wear so far, so that's a good sign. It's an anti-reversal latch. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is close it up and check the shimming. There's no undue contact between the sector and spur gears. There's no contact between those two either. There's very little movement, if any, on the gear shafts, vertical. Pretty good shim job for a stock gun. So some final thoughts on the Cyma CM.009E. Gearbox is nice and solid, parts are decent. If you wanted to upgrade later, you could absolutely do so. This is a very standard gearbox. Motor's good. Obviously the standout feature is the quick detach spring guard, you know, absolutely fantastic. I hope you enjoyed this overview and range test of the Cyma CM.009E, courtesy of TaiwanGun.com. We think it's a well-performing replica of the XM177E1. Fantastic for anyone wanting to do a US Vietnam loadout. If you want to see more from me, then head over to Anvil Airsoft TV on YouTube, and you'll find more than 100 videos to watch on a huge range of subjects. Thanks again to TaiwanGun.com for making this review possible. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.